You have bewitched me, body and soul, and I love you.
And I hope she'll be a fool. That's the best thing a girl in this world can be. A beautiful little fool.
Welcome back to my channel. I am starting a publishing master's in just under 2 weeks. That's literally terrifying. But I thought, you know, we read a lot on this channel if you've been around. Mostly it is fantasy or romance, and in last week's vlog we ventured into women's fiction. But now I thought, you know, we're going into publishing, we're becoming an intellectual, we gotta read something that fits that. And for my birthday I got this full collection of Jane Austen novels, and I thought, why don't we spend a week reading classics? So I'm currently reading Pride and Prejudice. I started last night. It's pretty good. I love the story of Pride and Prejudice. That's kind of why I picked that one. And then I don't really know what other books we'll read, but we'll find out. And they're all quite short, so this should be good. I think I'm like 5 pages into Pride and Prejudice, but I'm going to keep reading and we're going to see how much smarter I get in this process. So much difficulty reading this. I'm not enjoying it, and it's just because, like, I said this in last week's vlog, but like, I don't read for like intellectual reasons. Like, I read for like escapism. So although I don't mind sometimes if it's a bit challenging, like with fantasy, like I have to lock in a bit more, I am really struggling with how much attention I have to focus. But I don't know, it's literally, I'm only 20 I think % of the way in, and I thought I'd swap to Kindle because usually it like really inspires me because then I read it really quick, but it's like I've got 4.5 hours left of the book and I really wanted to get it done today, and I don't foresee that happening. I do think I'm going to watch Pride and Prejudice now though, in order to sort of like re-familiarise myself with the story, and then hopefully reading it will make a bit more sense and I'll know where we are at the story. So I'm going to do that now, and I'll probably come back to you when I am finished reading this. I'm eating my dinner and I'm watching, and I'm 30 minutes in to the movie and I just got to the part that I'm in the book. So I'm going to try and watch a little bit more so that like the rest of what I read tonight is like, I've watched it so I know what's happening, because like already I was like, oh, that's who this guy is. So we're going to keep watching a little bit now, and then we'll pick up the book again and power on through.
How can I ever make amends for such pain? If your feelings are still what they were last April, tell me so at once.
Guys, why didn't they kiss? Guys, am I a barista? I'm back on the floor, my absolute favourite place if you know me. You guys probably saw this coming before I did. I watched Pride and Prejudice, very much enjoyed it, but now I'm like, well, why would I read it? Because I'm like, now it's literally like I watched it the day before last and I was struggling to read it anyway. So I think I'm gonna DNF it. It feels really legal, but I don't understand because I've been reading it on my Kindle, and when I looked it was like 200 pages and I feel like I've read so much, but it was like only, oh, it's only have 4 hours and 40 minutes left. So I think what I'm going to do is, I'm not going to say I'm DNFing it just yet. Maybe, should I just read some more? No, I think I'm going to DNF it, guys. I literally am so annoyed at myself. I realised that I never actually gave a recap of what Pride and Prejudice is, and I figured I would come in here. This is multiple days later, but essentially Pride and Prejudice is about one girl called, well, about a girl called Elizabeth Bennet and all of her sisters, and they've all just come out into society. This like big house basically gets this new guy inhabiting it, and he brings with him his kind of wealthy friends, and that's essentially it. That's the basic plotline without giving you any spoilers. But in other news, I also realised I'm like not entirely sure what is classified as a classic, but I feel like fairy tales are classic, right? Also, last year I got a book of the original Grimm fairy tales, so you can't get more classic than this. Look how many, guys, this book's just making me realise what cool books I have. So this is like a collection of all the original Grimm fairy tales, so I thought that I would read one of the fairy tales because that's a classic. I haven't really decided what my third book is. Look how beautiful this book is though. Let me show you. Look at the pages. Ooh. It just looks like something you would find, like, and all the sides are gold. Like, it looks like something like a family relic or something. Which classics should we read? I have read a few of them recently and I've enjoyed it. So I kind of want to read one of like a story that I know. So I think I read, did I read the Cinderella one? What have I even read? We could do Little Red Riding Hood, that's a classic. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs is an option. We've got Sleeping Beauty. So we're gonna read Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Ooh, this one has illustrations. All right, let's get started. Read it and it is so fun, like seeing what's different from how we have the story now to how it was originally written. So basically, obviously the story we know with Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs is Snow White's mum dies, and Snow White runs away to the Seven Dwarfs and then eats a poison apple and then gets awoken by the prince, right? But in the original version, obviously in the way that Grimm fairy tales are, it's much darker, which is fun. Like I like that. Maybe I'm just like twisted, but like I like that. The queen, as with this earlier story, becomes obsessed and eventually she's like, don't want to even look at her, and Snow White runs away, joins the dwarves. That's all the same. Actually, what isn't the same is it mentions that she's called Snow White because her mother pricks her finger on a spinning wheel.
I think I've seen this film before.
And the blood drops onto the snow and she's like, I want my child to have red lips, white skin, black hair, like essentially. And then she does, and then she dies in childbirth. Where the story differs quite a lot is that the queen actually tries to kill Snow White multiple times. The first time she dresses up as an old woman and she goes and it says laces her up, so I was thinking, is that like corset? I think that's what I was assuming, and does it so tight that it stops Snow White from being able to breathe. And so when the dwarves return home from work, they see her, but then they realise what's going on, and so then they loosen the laces and Snow White can breathe again. So by the time the queen's like, mirror, mirror on the wall, they're like, it's still Snow White. And then she's like, oh my gosh. So then she does the poison apple. But then what's crazy is she's like full on like dead, and the dwarves come back and they're like, they mourn her for like 3 days. Like they see her, they search her for poison, they wash her hair, they do all of this stuff, can't find anything, and they're like, she looks too pretty to bury. And so they put her in the glass coffin and they just kind of leave her there. And then the king's son, I don't know who that is, but he comes through, the prince, and he sees her in the coffin and he's like, oh my gosh, she's so beautiful, I want her. So then he goes to the dwarves and he's like, can I please like buy the coffin? And they're like, no, this is Snow White, like we love her, no amount of money is good enough. But then the prince is like, please, like, I love her. She's like, I have to have her, basically. And so the dwarves are like, okay, twist my arm, why don't you? And they just let him have the coffin, like, and he's like, yay, like, I'll carry Snow White with me forever. Bit weird, what is he planning on doing with a dead woman? Anyway, and then as he's pulling the carriage away with like the coffin, it goes over a tree stump and it jolts, which jolts the piece of apple from her throat. And then she like wakes up and she's like, where am I? And he's like, I love you, let's get married. And she's like, okay. And then at the wedding, the queen like finds out about it and she's like, for some reason I can't stay away. So she goes to the wedding, but as soon as she shows up, they've made these shoes for her which are burning hot, and they make her dance in them until she dies. That's so cool. Like, it's so cool how different it is. Like, so much of them are like the villain gets killed in the thing. I don't know what other classic to read now. I've read Lord of the Flies. I could read Great Gatsby. To Kill a Mockingbird. I might read The Great Gatsby. How long is that? Great news. The Great Gatsby is on Kindle and it's free. And it's 162 pages. So we're going to read The Great Gatsby now. And then... that's exciting. I really want to see the musical of Great Gatsby. So this will give me some context for when I do go. I don't really know what it's about. So... that should be interesting. Okay, I am... oh, hang on. I don't even know. Oh, I couldn't find my Kindle. Found it. I am 69% of the way through Great Gatsby and I will say I'm enjoying it. I don't know. I was gonna say I'm enjoying it more than Pride and Prejudice, but I just think I didn't give Pride and Prejudice a chance. I'm not loving it, and I was really trying to figure out what I'm struggling with about these classics. And I'm still not 100% sure, but I think they're very, like, they're almost solely plot driven as opposed to character. So I don't really care what happens to all the characters. And similarly to Pride and Prejudice, it's written in a way in which, for me, the characters are all very interchangeable, and like when they're referred to by their first names it's easier, but there's a lot of Mr. and Mrs, Mr. and Mrs, and I get a little bit muddled, and so I don't necessarily know what's happening to who, and the scenes don't seem to happen, like I never know how big a time jump we've done, or like they'll be in one place in one scene and then it takes me like a while, I say scene, I mean chapter, it takes me a while to figure out where we are in the next chapter, like whether we're back at his house, Gatsby's house, Daisy's house, like all of this. Yeah, so I just can't really figure out any of the characters' intentions. Also, particularly, I cannot, like, the main character seems like the least important character, which is really hard to like the story's happening around him rather than to him, which is really weird to read, just kind of someone just recounting like something that's happening to their friends as opposed to actually like what's happening in his life. I'm not really enjoying it that much. I feel like, and this is going to make me sound really bad, I do feel like if I was to watch it on stage or the movie I would probably enjoy it more, because you're seeing more of what's happening, like there'll be more emotion to it. There's like the main guy, I don't even know what his name is. I think, oh, Nick, like he doesn't really display emotion, so you don't particularly know how he feels about the situations that he's recounting. So like currently he's in a romantic relationship, but like that was just a complete side plot. I don't know how he feels about her, but I'm gonna finish it probably now because I think I've only got like half an hour left in the book, do I? 40 minutes, so I think I'm just gonna sit, get it done, get it read, because this has not been my most favourite challenge, and honestly if it wasn't for the fact that I DNF'd Pride and Prejudice I probably would DNF this, and I'm also a little bit annoyed because I feel like I should have given Pride and Prejudice more of a chance than I'm giving this. I do think after this video's finished I will go back and read Pride and Prejudice because I just feel like I didn't give it that much of a chance, and like I do love the film, I do love the story. Pretty sure it's a retelling of Much Ado About Nothing, could be wrong, which is my favourite Shakespeare, so like yeah, I do want to give that another chance. I just really don't think the state of reading mind I'm in right now. Like a month ago I bought a bunch of new fantasy books and I've been prioritizing all these reading challenges and they've just been sat there, and I've been really wanting to give my attention to them, and so it's kind of hard for me to like lock into the other books because I'm like, oh, I'm ready for a fantasy now, or even like a cheesy romance, because I've obviously done women's literature and now I've done this. I've not really read just like a good cheesy romance or a good world building fantasy, and a lot of like the women's fiction is quite similar to the classics in like you sort of get the story recounted rather than like you're involved in the story. But anyway, I'm going to finish this now and I will give you my final review at the end. What did you get, Goose? I finished Great Gatsby. Also, if you don't know what Great Gatsby is about, I don't really know how to explain it because I don't really know like what I read, but essentially there's this mysterious guy who owns a house called Gatsby. He throws these big elaborate parties at the house like every day, every night, and his story ends up being tied to a lot of the other stories. It's the best explanation I can give, but I did finish it, and I said this before, but I do maintain I really want to see it in musical now. I think I could really enjoy the story, I just didn't like the way it was written. So from what I've seen of clips, which also, funny enough, I didn't realise I had a major spoiler for Great Gatsby, in that, I'm going to say it without spoiling it for you guys, but on TikTok I saw basically in the musical all of their variations of falling. If you know, you know. If you don't, I didn't spoil it, so good. But yeah, I was like reading it and I was like, oh my god, wait, I know how this ends essentially. So that was fun, but I think it would be really fun with like the addition of music and getting to see the story in a little bit more of like a lively way. I think would make it very enjoyable, because there was a lot going on. It just was all felt very surface to me and very like none of it was really explored, and honestly I felt like the plot only happened like at the 70% mark of the book, which was very bizarre. But I'm very glad I read it, and yeah, but I'm glad that's done, and I'm glad I can go back to my fantasy reads now because I've missed them.